Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and we're going to have a little fun with this ocean seascape. In this video, I'm going to use a wax crayon. You know, those ones that you get with like your Easter egg kits. You can use a candle. I've never used it, but this is the wax crayon. They're white and they're transparent. Now, I'm using this on Fabriano Studio. It's got a little tooth to it, so you got to rub kind of hard, or the teeth of the tooth of the paper will show through. Also, you want to use sort of a circular motion, otherwise you'll get long. If you go back and forth, you'll get long, jagged marks. Once you do this, you're kind of stuck once you start painting. So you want to do sort of just in a rounded motion. Now, when you're making your wave patterns, you don't want to go really straight across. You want to look at more random, and you want to make sort of like peaks and valleys. Otherwise, it'll look too straight across. It'll look too strange. So make some big peaks. You'll see the pattern once I start painting. And I know it's hard to see from the video. Then you can wipe off the little excess wax. So now I'm going to go into my palette. I'm going to get some cobalt blue to start, and just go straight across using the medium brush. Now you can see the areas where I used the wax, that the paint isn't sticking. Now I'm going to be using some different blues here. I've got phthalo blue, cobalt blue, cerulean, ultramarine. You can use any of those combinations. And then I have some turquoise, and I have some viridian green. So any of those combinations you can use. So there's a little bit of the turquoise. Turquoise is kind of like a deep blue. Depending on what brand you get, it may be greener. So you just want to kind of vary it up a little bit. Get some greens underneath. You know, some waves have the sort of green color. If you've ever looked at pictures of waves, or looked at waves directly very closely, you'll notice that the undercurrent part has some greenishness to it. So just kind of be random about it, have fun. This is the initial first wash, more or less, and then we'll start adding some other colors, and we're going to use some white to touch up. Now I've kind of dipped in a little bit of Payne's gray here, just to get even darker. A lot of this is going to kind of tone down a little bit as we go. But, you know, directly under the waves, sometimes you have some darker colors. Now, I've done 2 or 3 like this now, just to kind of practice. It may take you a little practice to get it, but it's fun overall, because you don't have to worry about the waves so much, and you don't have to either use as much white or worry about masking fluid, which I personally don't like. Now, I've sprayed this a little bit, and I'm going to let this run down a little bit. Just let it run a bit. Tip it backward. You'll notice I'm using more of a horizontal. I'm painting more flat than I usually do, and that's just basically for water control. So now I'm taking, there's some droplets that are on top of this crayon wax material, so I'm just taking a towel and I'm just kind of cleaning that up a little bit. And you can go a little over the top a little bit and lighten up where the top is of the wave. You know, just play around with it, and whatever, you know, looks good to you. So now I'm going to come back in with a fan brush, and I'm going to work with some different colors here, some phthalo blue, some viridian, get some green kind of colors going underneath. If it doesn't get green, you can use yellow, you can use the lemon yellow and blue, and create a green color if you don't have viridian, or if you don't have turquoise. I'm just kind of going by imagination at this point of what I think waves look like. If you have a photo of some waves that you can access. Use that kind of as a reference. Now, you may get good with the crayon that, you know, you don't have to do any additional. You could leave it like this, obviously, but it's going to require a little bit of white to kind of, you know, make this a little more believable. In time, you could probably do everything that you need to do with the crayon if you get very adept with it. So I just gave it another little spray, kind of let things run a little bit again. Let the colors bleed into one another. Okay, so now I'm going to break out some white, and this is white gouache. And I'm going to use this to kind of touch up the top of the wave and create a little bit of spray up on top, and then brush down from the wave as show the water is crashing down. It blends in very nicely, and it doesn't overtake the crayon created waves. Now, your mileage may vary with this depending on the white that you use. Some whites seem like they dry back a little bit more. The heavier you go, the more it will remain. But you can always come back and you can add more after it dries. I'm adding it wet into wet here now because I do want it to blend somewhat. So just look around and see where you might think some waves might be crashing down. Obviously, if you're going off a photo, you know, go by that. But here I'm just being very random about it, just having some fun. And just adding a little white up top. Now you'll notice now it takes away some of the starkness of the white of those waves. And I'm just kind of putting some in at the bottom. Now you could have done that with the crayon, or I could have done it with a crayon, but I put in some water lines underneath at the bottom. So I'm just going around, just having fun, adding a little bit of white here and there. If you like masking fluid, obviously you can use that. But then if you do, once you take it off, you have to worry about the risk of painting over the white area. This, you won't be able to paint over where the crayon was. Now I just cleaned up my palette colors that I was using, and I'm just using that for the sky. Leave a little bit for a little bit of a horizon. And I'm going to take my dirty, wet kitchen roll towel here and just stamp out some cloud patterns, just randomly. And I'm just going to touch that up a little bit with the same colors that were on the brush before it dries. Blend those in a bit. You don't have to have clouds on yours if you don't want. I'm doing some smaller ones closer to the horizon. Just random. Again, just letting it run a little bit. Okay, so I let that dry a little bit, and I'm just touching up that horizon. It's a little, I don't want it to take away from the water waves below. So I just wanted to kind of lessen that a little bit. just look like the sky coming down to the horizon. Again, just letting it run a little bit, tilting the paper. Dabbing some little effects into some of the waves. And it's coming along nicely. Something fun you can do. So now I'm going to take my fan brush and I'm going to make some water kind of coming over the crest there. So this here, you're going to want to get a fair amount of white on your brush and just kind of like use the tips of the bristles so you don't have you don't want a solid blob of white coming down. You want it to look like sort of individual flows of water. So it really looks like the waves are crashing down. So again, just going around with the fan brush, making a few lines. Now you'll notice it's not quite as dark as when I first started. A lot of that has dried back or lost a little bit underneath the white. So it's important to make the waves dark in the beginning so you can make that last. But you can always come back with more. You can always come back with more or go over it again. So again, some more, just working on those crests. I don't want to cover up too much of the blue water there, take away from any of that. It's the darks and the lights that really, will really make the difference here. At this point, it's really up to you how you want to do the waves, what shapes, how frothy you want them to be, how many lines of waves that you want. I'm just taking a little bit of my wet white wash here and just enhancing these clouds a little bit. This is just a milky wash. Have dried back a little bit. Now this isn't the only thing obviously you can do with a crayon. Anywhere that you want to have white, I mean you could do the side of a mountain. You'd probably almost have to kind of draw it out first, but you can use it for mountains, you can use it to leave areas of white. It's just once you use it, you won't be able to paint over that area. Now you can also use it if you put a color down and then over the top once it dries, so that you have a color underneath that you want to stay. That's another thing you can do. Like right now, I could use the crayon over some of the blue areas so that nothing will affect it, if that makes sense. So now I'm just doing a little finger painting. Just bringing down those crests a little bit. If you're doing a beach scene, you want to have like just kind of one wave with a little, you can use the wax crayon. So again, your mileage may vary. Practice with it a little first, see if you like it. If you don't have a wax crayon, try just a plain candle, something that doesn't have any color in it, obviously. I suppose you can get other colors of wax crayons and do some neat effects. I'm always looking for neat new little tricks to do things. Rubbed in a little bit more green colors off my palette into that wave. I don't want to be too much of a perfectionist in a video. I want it to look, as approachable as it can for you. Obviously, if you're doing this, you can spend an hour on it if you want, getting certain elements just right. I don't like to spend more than 20 minutes on a video. It's a long video for people to watch. Some people don't want to watch hour-long videos. I mean, I even skip through videos that I watch, but give you the basic idea. And you can sit down and you can improve upon it, and just have a good time. Do 2 or 3 of them, different patterns, different color combinations. So now I'm going to take a toothbrush and I'm going to put a little bit of white on it with a little water from my jar, and I'm going to spatter. Be careful with this now, and a lot of this will dry back, but I'm going to spatter some sea spray here. We'll just let that dry. You don't want too big of blobs, so practice on another piece of paper before you do it. And this one's pretty much done. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have one, if you tried it and you had fun, let me know. Here it is, and it's matte. And we'll kind of zoom in here. You can see the crashing of the waves, the sky area, and here it is in its virtual frame. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week.